It's that time again, Sunday morning, and here's another podcast episode. I'm Ray, and this time I'm talking about the Four Seasons. Not Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, not the pop group, the band, very popular and successful in the 1960s, but the Four Seasons: spring, summer, autumn and winter. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. We were talking about the evenings drawing in, the mornings are darker, and he said, I love the winter, I like the winter, which I thought a bit odd. But when he went on to explain that 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's getting dark, draw the curtains, sit by the fire, you're warm and cosy, knowing that outside it's cold, it's horrible, it's wet and windy, perhaps icy and snow. I understood what he meant. It can be very nice in the winter evenings, late afternoon in the winter, sitting by the fire. We've got a coal fire, a real coal fire. Quite unusual these days, I believe. And what I love doing is lighting the fire about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, staring into the flickering flames. They're almost hypnotic, aren't they? Staring into the flames, sitting there by the fire. It's warm. Outside it's dark and horrible. So the winter does have its attractions. Looking back to my childhood days, kids then, all my friends at school, we all loved the winter because it meant one thing: Christmas. Kids loved Christmas. I mean, they do now, but back then it was so different. The build up to Christmas started perhaps 2 weeks before, not 2 months before. School holidays, few weeks off school, you're looking forward to Christmas, there's the build up to it. It was fantastic. And we had snow back in those days. I know people say, no, when you look back to your childhood, you think that the summers were hot, the winters were snow and cold, and it wasn't really that way. I don't know whether that's true or not. I do remember winters meant snow. That's what the winter was about. It was snow and ice. Do you remember the glass milk bottles? They would freeze, the milk would freeze, and the frozen milk would push the cap off, the silver cap. Many times I saw a bird, perhaps a robin, sitting on top of a milk bottle, pecking through the cap, in the winter to get to the milk. That was lovely to see. That was winter. That's what it was all about. Jack Frost on the inside of the window in your bedroom, not only outside, frost on the inside that you could scrape with your nail. That doesn't happen these days because we've got central heating, but I'm sure it was colder then. So that was winter. It was all about Christmas and, for me in particular, time off school. So then we move on to spring. Now, back in those days, kids were outside people. Children were outside children. There was no staying indoors watching television. Well, there was no daytime television in the 50s. In the 60s, there was a little bit on in the day, but it was mainly for TV service engineers, the test card, and perhaps the odd film, interludes and things like that. Nothing for children. There was Children's Hour. I think it was at 5 to 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So kids were outside people. In the summer, if they weren't in the woods, they were in the garden. So there was no sitting in your bedroom. I don't remember ever sitting in my bedroom. I was always out somewhere doing something. Of course, we didn't have iPads and phones and all that nonsense. So let's move on to spring. What does spring mean? Well, after Christmas, as soon as New Year's Eve is out of the way, you've done Christmas, it's still winter, of course. January and February are horrible months. I've never liked them as a child or an adult. They just seem to go on. I know it's only 8 weeks, but it seems more like 8 months, doesn't it? January, February, cold, horrible, wet, windy, dark, just not nice at all. But then spring comes along. Now what I love, I remember my old nan, she used to love it. Little shoots popping up through the snow. Now, you see, again, I remember the snow from my childhood days. I remember my nan saying, look, here come the daffodils popping up through the snow. I don't see snow when the daffodils are coming up anymore. Crocus, they'd pop up. All sorts of things would be happening. Buds on the bushes and shrubs. Things happening. Wildlife coming out. Those who'd hibernated are now waking up and having a rummage around for something to eat. Spring was fantastic. Springtime to us kids was brilliant because once spring takes a hold, you've got tadpoles. We had ponds near us in the woods. We had several ponds. There were tadpoles, sticklebacks, frog spawn and all this. It's all happening. Everything's beginning to happen. So we were over the woods, even though it was chilly. We were over the woods, poking around in the ponds with our nets, catching things, looking at the frog spawn, and of course learning. So springtime was fantastic. There was loads to do. Again, for me as a child, spring, I know I keep going back to this, but spring meant that summer was on the way, and that meant 6 weeks summer holiday, 6 weeks off school. You're probably thinking that my entire life revolved around school holidays. Looking back, I believe it did. That's all I ever thought about. When's the next half term? When's Easter? How many days we got off at Easter? When's the summer holiday start? How long till the winter holiday, the Christmas holiday? I really did hate school. But anyway, moving on, I know quite a few people who have gone to live abroad. Australia, friends and family, Australia, America, Spain. They all say the same thing. What they miss most of all about the UK is the seasons, the 4 seasons. Now, I know many countries around the world do have 4 seasons, but not like ours in the UK. I think the seasons abroad, from what I've heard, it's all mingled into one long season, really. It's a bit hotter in the summer, it's a bit cooler in the winter. But here in the UK, or it used to be, really severe differences. Ice and snow, red hot summers. Well, that's how I remember it anyway. But that's what everyone that I've spoken to that's moved abroad, when you ask them, what do you miss about the UK? Always the same answer, the seasons. For us kids, the summer holidays, 6 weeks off school, that meant over the woods every day, climbing trees, not too high because I don't like heights, but over the woods, again poking around in the ponds. The tadpoles were now frogs, there were sticklebacks, there were all sorts going on, there were newts, everything was out of hibernation, the trees were green, everything was green, it was lovely. The sun shone all day, every day, well, as far as I can remember anyway. I don't remember it ever raining during the school summer holidays. There wasn't one day where we had rain. There were probably several days, but I can't remember that. Again, if it rained, I don't remember it raining, but if it did, I think we still went over the woods. I don't think we would have just sat indoors in our bedroom. Mind you, I did have Meccano. Do you remember the Meccano sets? Thinking back, I did play Meccano, building cranes and models and things. I had the electric motor that went with the Meccano set. So yes, there must have been rainy days because I do remember spending days doing that. But in the main, it was sunshine. Autumn, of course, was very different. Evenings were getting darker, the mornings were getting darker. But there was something to look forward to. Bonfire night, Guy Fawkes night. Now that's the 5th of November. I'm never quite sure when the seasons begin and end. Is the 5th of November, is that winter or is that autumn? Anyway, as far as I was concerned as a kid, when summer started to disappear, that meant that autumn was here and bonfire night was on the way. Now again, that was a great event. We all had fireworks in the garden in those days. We built a bonfire. All the kids from around the neighbourhood, you'd see them during the day dragging branches back from the woods, dragging logs, huge bits of tree, dragging them back to their gardens to put on the bonfire. And of course, unlike today, bonfire night started on perhaps between the 3rd of November and ended on perhaps the 6th or 7th. That was it. Unlike these days, the 5th of November bonfire night seems to start somewhere in October and can go on till Christmas. There's still fireworks going off. So that was the thing to look forward to in the autumn. And of course animals were disappearing, they were going into hibernation. We'd still go over to the woods, put your coat on and a balaclava. Do you remember the balaclava? If it got a bit chilly, you'd put that on, still go over the woods. Everything's changing, especially of course as winter approached. The pond would be iced over, just a sheet of ice. We didn't walk on it, we weren't that stupid because the ice wasn't that thick, but the pond would be a sheet of ice as winter fell upon us. So the autumn was great. All the 4 seasons to children back in those days, it all meant things, different things. You'd have different activities, different things were going on. So they were great times. Now, as an adult, of course, the seasons mean different things altogether. I'm not going over to the woods, not climbing trees. But the seasons have changed. People talk about climate change. Whether we've caused climate change or it's a natural thing, I don't know. But there is definitely change in the climate. There's no denying that. You see on the television pictures of the ice caps, the polar ice caps, all melting. Huge chunks of ice falling into the sea. So things are changing. Our summer this year, the summer we've just had, we had a huge heat wave. I say huge because under our patio roof, we've got the patio covered with a sort of lean-to roof. Under there, it was 45 degrees centigrade. Can you believe that? 45 degrees. I mean, admittedly, it is like a greenhouse. It's a sun trap, even though the front's all open. But I've never seen it that high before. 30s, yes, but 45. Things are changing. The seasons now, rather like in some countries, they blend into one. Autumn sort of gets a bit chillier and then that's winter. Throughout the winter it's not very nice and then it gets a little bit warmer and that's spring. Of course the daylight and the darkness stay the same, don't they? That hasn't changed. Still gets dark early in the winter and gets light a lot later in the mornings. But temperature-wise, there's not the huge changes that there used to be in temperature. I don't know whether you've noticed, but if you're in the UK, you have a look at the bulbs coming up now. The crocus, the daffodil shoots coming up. That's before Christmas. It really is before Christmas. I've seen it. Not late January, February like it used to be. So things have definitely warmed up. There's no doubt about it. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, Boxing Day. We'd had a nice Christmas day with sunshine. Boxing Day was nice. The sun was out. It wasn't at all cold. The grass was growing. So I got the lawnmower out. I mowed the lawn on Boxing Day. Can you believe that? I remember saying to people for months afterwards, do you know, I mowed the lawn on Boxing Day. And other people said, yeah, we did. We were out in the garden. We were doing this and that. It was lovely. I think it won't be long and we'll be like Australia, having Christmas dinner down on the beach or out on the patio in the garden. No, I don't think it's going to, well, I don't know, it might change that much. They do say that if things carry on, then we will become more like a Mediterranean country. Perhaps some palm trees we can grow, well, like in Cyprus, grow bananas. It won't be in my lifetime, of course, but I can see that might be possible in the future. I like to have the coal fire going on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day. Whether it's cold or not, it's just having the coal fire going. It's rather nice. It's Christmassy, isn't it? But what we've had to do the last couple of years, because the fire's going, we've had to open the patio doors. This is the dining room fire. Open the patio doors to let the heat out because it's too hot. We've had the heating off, the central heating off, the coal fire going, and we have to let it die down and open the doors because it's so hot. Now, as a kid, I never, ever, I can't remember one occasion where we were so hot we had to open the doors or windows at Christmas. It was cold out there. It was freezing. I also miss the Sunday afternoon walks. After Sunday lunch, used to go for a walk in the winter. It was frosty. The grass was hard and crisp and frosty. The air was freezing. You breathe out and it's all the steam, the moisture. Those days have gone. Yes, we still go for a walk after Sunday lunch. I remember wearing a hat, a scarf and gloves and a big overcoat, thermal socks, or not thermal socks, didn't have thermal socks then, but perhaps 2 pairs of socks, big pair of boots, go for a walk in the countryside. Lovely, really freezing cold. And perhaps if the sun was out as well, the trees were all brown and barren, the land's all white with the frost. Absolutely fantastic time. But that's all gone, hasn't it? Going back to childhood days, there was the conker trees. Do you remember the conker trees? We'd go conkering. We'd take a carrier bag, and collect loads of conkers. We knew where the trees were. You'd have to discover where there was a conker tree that no one else knew anything about. Otherwise, the ground and the tree would be just stripped of conkers the minute they appeared. So you had to find your own tree. We had ours. It was quite a distance away. You'd need to walk quite a way through the country. But then this conker tree was on the edge of a field on its own. No one knew about it. So we had not only the pick of the best conkers, but all the conkers. I remember selling them at school. So that's it really, I think, for this episode. Not much more to say about the season. Well, there's a lot more. But I'll just try to show you my thoughts of the difference between the 50s and now, 2020. The difference in the four seasons, how they were definitely separated in those days. They were completely separate entities, whereas now it all sort of blends into one. Just small, well, not small temperature changes, obviously. In the winter it does go down to 0, and in the summer, as I say, under the patio roof it goes up to 45 degrees centigrade. But there's not that sharp change anymore. The seasons drift into each other. Okay, hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you want to comment, I answer all comment, rude or otherwise, so please email me. It's Ray's Rants. That's Ray's Rants at protonmail.com. Ray's Rants at protonmail.com. And I do answer all emails. So I look forward to hearing from you. And I also look forward to ranting away again next Sunday. Look out for the next episode. Thanks for listening. As always, take care. Bye-bye for now.